Okay, hello everyone. We are continuing the large collection of design reviews for version 14. Today, it's one about visualization. So,
So we have a family of pairwise plotting functions. They will put up an n by n grid of panels, and they allow you to plot high dimensional data sets and get insights of various kinds. So the first three allow you, for instance, to detect correlations,
if I
essentially.
say things like pairwise list plot of random real 10, comma, let's say uh, something like 10, 10, 10.
No, it's more like 100 comma 10.
Yes.
Oh, so it doesn't deal with, wait a minute, why is it hanging?
It's probably doing multi-data set, but
Okay,
it's not going to be.
okay. Well, so explain this to me. So, these scales look pretty funky down here.
So, the data you gave is the least interesting of all possible data,
I understand that. I
but
want to
never,
understand this.
but sure.
Right. Okay, so do 20 comma 10.
It's very, very slow. What's going on here? What's
It's doing
going on?
100
That's
calls to list
ridiculously
plot,
slow.
and needs needs some optimization.
Well,
Okay,
it sure does.
yes. So you have 20 points that are 10 dimensional,
Sure.
right? And
These
so
scales look like shit. Look at this stuff here. What the hell is going on there? Some of them are 0.0, some of them are 0.24. What the hell's going on here?
well, it probably depends a little bit on what values happen to be in each position.
Well, this looks terrible. No, I don't think it's a good idea to have these scales change. See what I'm saying?
Well, the alternative is, you end up with, lots of stuff colliding.
Okay, let me understand what this picture is of.
So in panel IJ, row I, column J,
Yep.
you project down to the coordinates I comma J, and it's a
So
list
there's
plot.
10 squared things here.
Yep.
Right? Yes.
But this is the identity. Why isn't it on the leading diagonal? Why is it on the backwards diagonal?
It is on the leading diagonal.
No,
What do
it's
you mean?
not. It's going backwards here. The leading diagonal will be down here.
But
That's a thing correlated with itself.
yeah, X,
No.
if you plot X comma X for different values of X, it's going to be a diagonal like that.
I see. Okay, fine. Yep. Okay. All right. So let me plot something more interesting. What if I say random real
Go to the
normal
documentation for pairwise
distribution.
list plot. It has.
Oh my gosh, sorry.
So
This
that's
really needs optimization. And this really doesn't look good. I think you need a way to lock these scales to be the same. If we
Well,
lock these
but they
scales to be
aren't
the same,
necessarily the same.
no, I understand, but they could be made the same. You could make them, we could make them all plot range. We could throw all the points in and say, what's the plot range automatic version of all those points? Because that way, this thing would be meaningful. Otherwise, this thing is meaningless.
No, that would not be meaningful. Look at the examples in the documentation for pairwise list plot.
But I don't understand.
here's
So Stephen, you are
Steven,
generating points with 10 dimensions, all coming from the same distribution.
I know.
In reality, this is going to be like your height and your weight and
Well, sometimes,
You know,
yeah.
there's no, no
Sometimes it
reason
will be
that your
uniform
first
like this.
column is going to be.
Sometimes it will be uniform. Sometimes it will not be. Sometimes the dimensions will all be, meaning the same kind of thing, and sometimes they won't be. That's what I'm suggesting. This is a case where they do happen to mean the same thing, and where you should lock the scales together. Even though it might be that the default should not be to do that, but you should have a way to do it.
Right. I mean, the way to do that would be with plot range.
Okay. So if I say here, plot range arrow automatic, what will that do? Will that throw
I
everything
mean,
into
that
the
is
same
probably what it's
automatic?
doing right now.
Okay,
You
so
know,
it's not
if
right.
you said
So,
plot range goes to -20, -20, -2020, -2020, or whatever, -10, I guess we're getting down to 20 in some cases.
that will do that, won't it?
That should. I don't remember if that's 0 to 20 or,
Okay.
-20 to 20.
Okay. That's much more informative than the previous one.
But that's a very special case.
Well, it's not that special a case. It's a case where the data happens to be, you have a high dimensional function, not something where every piece of data in every dimension comes from a different thing. They're two cases, right? This is more of the kind of pure case. The other case is more of the applied case. I don't think this case is so totally irrelevant. I certainly would have had applications for this over the years.
Okay, we can come up with a syntax for, plot range to sync everything.
I think full does it now.
Does
Say
it?
again?
Plot range full.
I really doubt that. That seems very
I doubt
crazy.
that too.
Seems totally crazy.
I mean, that is what I was going to suggest for that.
Okay.
Really? That this is the right thing? Well, I'm surprised by that. It doesn't seem quite right to me. Okay.
I mean, I don't think full normally has,
No.
a meaning for this case. I mean, for this type of, list plot.
Okay. So can I take a data set and plot it this way?
I think so. It should. I don't. I'm not 100% confident that's been hooked up, but it's certainly, on the list. If it isn't, that's going to be really boring.
Well, let's just see it. Is this new, this color?
Which was that a pinkish?
Color. Yeah, okay, that was boring. Okay, how do we see something which is more multidimensional with numbers rather than categorical data?
Go ahead and scroll down to the basic examples in the docs.
Okay, I was going to ask about Mr. Fisher's irises.
Yes, I mean, they are a classic example for this type of plot.
Okay, now here, each panel is chosen with its scales different, right?
Correct.
Now, is there any way that I can see which data point corresponds to which data point in another panel?
Not yet.
Not at the moment.
That's something we would like to have as part of the interaction. I'm not sure we're going to make it for this release because it might require some underlying data structures to back it. But yeah, you're right, Stephen. That is a key interaction point to know which ones are connected. And often you select a group of points, and the group of points light up in all the other panels.
A bit messy. And the rectangular pixels are kind of unpleasant.
Yeah, I think we should try to get them square if we can.
I think so.
This will look nicer.
Yeah. Looks pretty good. I mean, hard to know what. Now, why isn't it labeled with, petals and and whatever they are?
Because that's not in that data set.
I see.
Normal, what's the option setting for that? Or is there an example? Comment in chat.
Okay. All right. Now let's try pairwise smooth histogram. Let's watch something exciting happen here. Let's hope it's exciting. That's nice. That's nice. Now, for this categorical data, can we get different colors or something for that?
I mean, at the moment, it would be a manual thing, and you wouldn't do it with the histograms. What was that? Oh, that was you reevaluating.
One day that should work.
Right. So if you did like,
okay, why is this gray and this not gray?
Oh, is this different?
What, Stephen?
The label
These are
colors.
gray here,
Yeah.
and they're black here. I think
It's very subtle over Zoom.
Yeah, it's very subtle over Zoom, but the intent is not to vary it out.
Okay.
Right. So if you did, like
I'm just
group
asking a
by
design question. Have we had design look at this?
Not yet, other than Tim.
Because I'm wondering, is Tim here?
I don't remember if Tim is here.
So we have a long, actually, it would be useful if Tim joined and we could showcase some of the designs that we're aiming for, which is baked into some of the themes.
Fine. Ask
to be competitive.
Tim to join. Because I mean, here, I'm wondering whether these should be lightened, these borders. I don't know. Doesn't look bad right now, but I just wonder.
We have lightened them a little bit, but I don't know if we.
How well is plot theme section filled out normal in the docs?
Some, but
try web. I think web
That's
has.
nice, by the way, and it's not obvious to me that we need the gutters in general. Are the gutters really doing anything for us? I think they just look kind of, confusing.
I mean, I think they help on the density cases for sure.
Yeah. I see.
Well, it looks like the density still has a little bit of plot range padding, so maybe they aren't necessary even there, but.
Well, in this case, if we know these are going to be dark, we could have these lines be white.
Yeah.
I don't know if that will work, but at least 50% gray.
Try. Could you try pairwise list plot with web? That's
yes,
very
but
different.
I want to know the following thing: how do I change the color of the crisscross lines? What's the option to do that? There should perhaps be an appearance option with an association of things or something.
Let's see, so that would not be grid lines. Possibly we overlooked that one somehow.
Okay.
Try frame style goes to white.
yeah, it should be frame style with probably not hooked up.
It worked. It's very nicely.
Oh, it does. Okay.
That's really nice, seems to me. We need design involved in this, okay? Because that looks really good.
So we have Tim has done a lot of design, and we can bring in the other design too.
Yeah, okay, but this looks good to me. And I would just go, you know,
tight, and you pick frame colors that are contrasty by default.
yeah, I suspect if we say gray level 0.5, doesn't look fairly reasonable. A little bit lame. I mean, but if it's thicker, what would happen? That's absolutely fine.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a way to do this.
So some of the things that we have had to work on to fix is that often these labels, the variable labels basically, are long.
I see.
And, and I think we have a good repertoire of solutions for that.
Well, can you show me a gallery of things that happen? I mean, I'm not convinced that this is the right default color scheme, by the way. Looks very, Victorian ghost oriented.
Yeah.
Like those auras and things,
You try for could you try the list plot instead of that one? I haven't even seen this one myself. What is that?
That's web. That's
No, but yeah.
right. I think the background on the headers is too dark on this one, but
yeah, it is.
I don't know. This doesn't look too terrible to me, but
there's some things are a little bit heavyweight there and stuff.
Well, but I set the frame style, so.
Oh, you did? Okay, I didn't see that.
That'll help.
Yeah. That was pretty good. Okay. All right. What else should we look at here? I mean, I don't know. My input would be, some graphic design work, removing those gutters, things like this, probably.
Is Tim coming or not coming? Or can we show the design? No, it's fine. Did someone
Jeremy?
ask
Can
him?
we get Jeremy, please? Who's PMing
I'm
here?
I'm trying to reach him. I'm pinging him.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Well, also ping Jeremy.
Normally, do you want to pop in Tim's office?
Is also helping.
Okay. All right. What else would you like to highlight with me? And then we're also going to look at these univariate functions.
Yes.
Well, you haven't given an example of that. Where's the example?
It just opened a page because we hadn't done the illustrations at the time I wrote this. We're still, to some extent, working on it. So these two are a little bit different in that what they do, so the way you go from input data and dimensional is that you compare every pair of columns basically, to see how their distribution of values relate to each other. It's basically what they do.
Whereas in the other ones, point about our visualization directions. Okay, so there are still some plots that we don't have, like this. Gosh, what is it called? The Sankey diagram, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
That are for much simpler kinds of data than these. We really need those.
Sure.
I mean, these things that deal with, I have not used radial, whatever it's called, plot. What is it called?
Radial axis plot.
And parallel axis.
I haven't used that yet. And which is a bit surprising. Andrew on a live stream is commenting, will there be improvements to graphics aesthetics when using the multi-axis functionality? For example, things like grid lines, frame label do not work easily when using multiple axes, it says. Can you
I'm
comment
not
on
sure
that?
if any of those fixes are going for 14, but
Hmm.
Things here.
Okay. All right, but I don't understand this type of plot, so maybe I should just see. What the heck is this? So this is a quantile plot of variable A against variable B.
right.
Yeah.
And by the way, see why you don't use, I think you should use in the basic example, something which does have labels, because I think otherwise people just don't know that there are a possibility of labels there.
That's a good point.
I mean, since you're hiding the input data anyway.
Right,
Yeah.
we can hide it. We can hide the labeled version.
I really hate the way that those scales just look so messy. I guess there's no choice, but it just, they seem awfully messy. I also think
I mean,
that,
those are one of the areas, that pose difficulties. Not just for us, but for
No, for
everybody who
everyone.
creates these types of
Yeah.
plots of. It's interesting to see, sort of how different people do it and where it breaks down and
yeah, okay.
um
Well, this question whether we have gutters between the things or whether they are coincident is something we should figure out. How would I set an option to make those things coincident? Spacing's arrow 0.
Spacing's, yep, spacing 0.
I don't know. I mean, the points there are so, that you can barely see the points. You're mostly seeing the crisscross in the window. You're not seeing anything in the view. I don't know why. Maybe the points are too small.
I think the points are too small.
I think
There's
it's
also
coming from
another
the,
style of points.
yep, it's coming from the edge form of the point. So if you set a plot theme, you'll probably be able to see
No,
the
I don't
points
want
more
to set
clearly.
plot theme. I want to set plot style.
Sure.
And how do I set that?
Yeah, you can just set it to any color and the edge
No, I'm
form
not talking
will go
about the
away.
color. I'm talking about making these points bigger.
Absolute point size of 3. Should be plenty big.
Doesn't look
It's
any
not as
bigger
big
to
as
me.
I was expecting.
Well, now when I expand this, it gets bigger, which is very odd because it's an absolute point size.
Yes.
Let's try an absolute point size of 6 to see if it's even doing anything. There we go.
Higher.
Yeah, see, it's not doing anything.
Okay, so.
Yeah.
Just it was doing something last week, I thought, or maybe it was just
Well,
colors
okay.
somehow.
There's a bug. Okay, so this is a quantile plot. You've got one thing against the other, and you're sorting. I don't understand. Normally in a quantile plot.
So this is
Yeah,
a
the
cube.
bottom left corner
I
is going
see.
to be the minimum and the minimum.
Yeah, okay. And then to maximum.
Yep.
A maximum. Okay, all right, I understand what this is.
What is
What's
that?
that about?
That's a unit framework regression.
Does Iris data have units on it?
No, maybe it does.
Probably not.
Well, then why does it say this? Let's try.
I mean, so the fact that the probability and quantile plots generally share a lot of code.
Okay, so something went wrong.
Yes, something went weird.
Okay. All right, what else should we look at? I mean, you were going to show me a bunch of aesthetic choices and things.
Yeah, so if maybe Tim can share, or he can send you the notebook, would be great.
No, but why don't you send it to me, please? Tim.
Here, I don't have, here, let me put one together real quick of what I did before.
Where's the one that you have for general
Yeah.
multi-panel stuff?
Okay.
Yeah, with all the components. Well, who's doing that?
So one scheme that we learned, by the way, Stephen, which may be applicable in a bunch of other cases of labeling, is to have the panel labels fade out when they get too long.
That's an interesting idea.
So then we learned,
if you resize one of those plots and make it, like half width.
I think they're going to resize with the.
Oh, that's boring.
Well, that is a bug that you've got to fix, okay? That's
Yep.
the same bug that I was reporting to you on graphics grid about the fonts being broken off, right? You understand that bug.
Yep, I understand that bug.
Okay, so at that size, you should do something about these, right? You should probably either remove those or something. I mean, the only reason that the fonts look okay is because they went out of range. So there's more to do here. You should make the scales change in size as well, I would assume. Are these changing in size?
I don't think there's changing in size. I think there's a measurement that's in the wrong coordinate system in there. Normal is header display function fade working?
Yep, that should work.
So what should I do here?
You can do column labels, very
Well,
long.
I mean, pick one of the ones that's doing the data set. Yep, and then header display function goes to the string fade. Ah,
And they pinked.
what is that pinking?
Well,
oh, that's a
okay,
shame.
so not working, but I like the idea of fading like.
So it turned out that is in fact the same scheme. We didn't know about that, but then we learned it's the same scheme that's web browsers use and etc.
Yeah, for long URLs in the URL field.
As opposed to ... Yeah, it's an interesting idea.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. All right. What else should we see here?
I think that's about it. There's maybe a question that you have an opinion about, which is that we co-opted a bunch of options that are basically for
individual plots, and you're using them for the whole gaggle of plots, right?
Well, that too.
That, but we also are using like a lot of data set options and like the spacings and like header display function is a data set option originally.
I don't think that's terrible.
Okay.
I think we should leave them experimental until we have a little bit more of these in,
right,
and
what
then
does this mean?
Why don't you widen the notebook a little bit? Not sure if there we go. Like
Yeah,
the plot
reading
layout.
down or reading across.
Yeah.
How is that specified? Plot layout?
Right, and some of the stuff in Tim's notebook is for functionality that's not in this not for this version. That is related.
Yeah,
Okay, so the aspect ratio could be the individual panel aspect ratio, or it could be the aspect ratio of the whole thing.
Right,
How do you
and we're doing
decide
the
which it
individual
is?
panel.
Okay, but for some other things you're not.
Correct.
Image size, you're presumably doing the whole thing.
Yep.
Oh boy. Oh boy. Oh boy. That's kind of annoying.
It is, but I think for most of the options, at least, there's a pretty obvious, which way you want it to behave.
I think the aspect ratio is not so obvious. If you have a collection of these
Well,
plots,
I mean, okay, so aspect ratio for a normal plot is not, the ratio for the image size.
yeah, I understand that.
So
What is this?
This is
we're missing data.
no,
I mean that's
that
not
talking
for
about-
this. That's not for the pairwise stuff.
Oh,
no,
okay.
it's not for the pairwise.
Yeah, this all these were done before we even started on pairwise. It was just something to
I
get us
see.
started.
But one of the things, for instance, so we rotate labels. And so now you don't really want to cock your head at two different directions, right? Cock it left and then cock it right. So we consistently rotate. There's like, if you're going to cock your head, at least it's only one direction. Did you
There's no
hear?
cocking for this one because you're reading it like you would ordinarily read it.
Well, put the label on the right edge.
What about the x-axis? EU,
I see.
US, Canada, and the right edge.
Well, that's a single recocking, so to speak.
Exactly. We explicitly made it
Exactly.
only one
Right. I mean,
recocking.
Okay,
could have-
fine.
we could have flipped it,
So if
you
there
know.
was like an ostrich reading these, it would just, or an emu or something, it will just, never mind.
Exactly.
But
Reminds me of a comic I saw. It's a doctor. It's a dog teaching other dogs, and all the dogs are cocking their heads left and right. Like from all the cocking of heads, I think I gotta re-explain this topic.
Okay. So what's this? How did you get there? Is that gettable in the current setup, or is that something
No,
fictional?
this whole
No.
everything
No.
in here is faked.
Okay,
just-
okay, fine.
So just to get an idea across.
Okay, how are we doing this? Label inside, label how is that working? Is
So
that
at the
a
moment,
place play?
right. I mean, so this is for a thing for where individual panels make sense to be labeled, which is not the pairwise case. Right. In
No.
pairwise, you want to label the rows, you want to
Yeah,
label
yeah,
the
right.
columns.
Right. Okay, but I could, in principle, do this with place somehow.
In pairwise, no. I mean, and
Okay,
I'm not
so
even
what does
sure
place do
what
if
it
I
would
try to use it
mean.
in pairwise? So it should give a message. Am I
Sorry, say
making
that again?
sense? If you try to use placed for a plot label inside pairwise, it shouldn't just silently fail. It should give a message.
Okay.
And that's a general principle for these kinds of, if you don't recognize some primitive, give a message. Don't just silently fail. That should be true across lots of graphics. Am I making sense?
I think graphics does that. It even thinks it.
No, it doesn't do it. In many cases, it just ignores it. In many cases, I've tried to get different effects, plot legends in the right place, blah, blah, blah. It just does nothing, right? It just does nothing. And that's wrong.
Okay, so you want more messages out of the viz and plotting functions.
I do. In other words, if you can't
Okay.
figure out what to do, give a message. Don't just silently fail.
I mean, there are cases where, yeah, sure. I mean, I think for the most part we can do that. You know, if you're, I mean, if you specify something that, you know, involves dynamic, you know, we can't inspect
Well,
that.
fine, but that's a different thing, right? A lot of these are individual labeling, which we don't have right now for the pairwise functions, right?
Yes.
Correct. But the general, you know, appearance of, you know, what it looks like at the top and what it looks like on the right is applicable.
Yeah. Any ideas for what to do with these? I have to tell you, if you ran some kind of color or something behind those things, I think it would look better than just these random little bits, you know, left over like little pieces of sort of confetti or something. You know what I'm
Are you
saying?
talking about the ticks?
I'm talking about the ticks. Yeah, I'm talking about these ticks. If you were to, for example, run a background color behind all of these or something or some way,
Or the tick labels?
Yeah.
I mean,
Do you want it to match the stuff that the labels that are on the top and right, or
I
do you
don't
think it should be
know. I
something
don't know.
different?
That's for
Okay,
Tim or
I'm just,
Jeremy or somebody. I mean, I think
I think
that will
that
help make it more integrated.
I think what happened with too much emphasis on the tick labels,
No,
you
we
know,
don't want
because
to
you
do
want
that.
them on the heads.
Can we?
You know,
Can we
right now
find
they're just
Jeremy?
kind of
Perhaps.
secondary.
Can we find Jeremy? Somebody looked for him when I asked before.
Yeah.
So he's findable or he's not findable.
I'm trying to look him. I mean,
But we also talked about that 10 minutes ago. But okay.
Oh.
All right, we're not going to find him. Okay, so I'm telling you, you should talk to him about. I'm telling you, something that involves a light color behind these or something like that will help make them seem more integrated. Am I making sense?
Mhm.
And less like random things at different places.
Right.
And the collisions are pretty ugly. I mean, it's very unclear what those tick labels do for us. Am I making sense?
Mhm.
Well, I think that we have another shot when we go interactive. Let's say that you get a drop line, both to
Yeah.
the X and
Then
Y.
you can give what the value is on the
Yeah,
top.
you can light
Exactly.
it up with a value then. So that might
Right.
be in the end the more useful. Not sure yet. We need
I
to.
don't think this is useful here. I mean, when you have a large
Well, I
number
think
of
that there's sort of,
individual
you
panels,
know, I think that there's same thing that we talked highlighting. There's sort of the static versions for a static publication like PDF, and there's a dynamic version. And sometimes when you publish it, you have to have something there.
no, I understand that, but I think it's going to be hard for people. I mean, that is just ugly what you have there right now.
Yeah, it is.
Right. So I claim if they were all equal bins, which can happen from time to time, then you could label the first one and you'd be happy.
Another
I
thing
think
that's a bit odd, which comes out here, is that sometimes it is decided to do integers and sometimes decimals.
yes. Well, that's because sometimes it has only integers. It
I
has only integers. It's using just integers, which is the right behavior.
No, I mean, I think
No,
it's that
real
the
and real
range
says.
is a little bit different, and so it's switching between.
I see. So you're saying, wait a minute. So if it's only going to show integers, there's no reason to have the decimals. If
Right.
it's going to show a decimal, then you'll need
I
at least that.
I see what you mean, Roger. That is an interesting observation. I wonder why. Okay, so drag that plot bigger. So we see more of the ticks.
So that's the 2, 4, 6, 8 there in the bottom.
Right, and the others are 2.5s.
Yeah, that's something that we're working on the Axis object side of things, so not an issue.
Okay, but even at this scale, these ticks are really ugly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they kind of are.
So I think header display function automatic is hooked up to do the fading if you want to try that. But
What's it called now? Header
Header
what?
display function automatic, which you want to do with one with the labels.
Well, this is header. I mean, the headers or this or the axes.
No, this is a headers.
Header display function is not doing anything with the ticks, is it, Normal?
no, it's not. No.
Okay.
Okay. Well, so,
I mean, I know Men was experimenting with.
okay. Well, I don't know what that is because that's
That's
weird and that's wrong.
that's
No,
an
the-
interesting
yeah.
case.
Yeah, well, that's wrong. Okay. Why is this taking forever to resize? Why is it taking forever to resize? My hand's been off the mouse for ages.
Where ages means seconds.
Yeah. But I mean, it's been off the mouse. Right?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Why is it taking so long to resize?
I'm not sure. I don't think we're doing anything, so
Okay.
we'll
Well,
look
was this
into
a
it
bug
and see.
something that came up here?
Ooh.
Well, you've got something going wrong.
Well,
Take a look at it.
Yep.
graphics is not super happy.
All right. Is there anything else we should cover here?
No, that's it. I think
I
that's
think that's it.
That's nice, but I want to see some of these other diagrams that are on simpler to specify data.
sure.
Also,
I'm
I
not
don't
sure
understand-
Sinky is simpler to specify, but we'll,
Okay.
you know,
I don't understand why this background is white and this background is blue.
It's just that the sparsity. When there's 0 in any bin, it's left white.
Okay, but what is this here? Isn't that 0?
well, I mean, but those are, you know,
That's continuous.
it's a
data.
continuous function. So there's no, you know, it's not 0 anywhere.
Okay.
Whereas with the discrete one, you know, parts of it really are 0.
I see.
And, you know, and the 0 parts aren't
But
shown.
it's very ugly that blue is the epsilon and white is the 0. See what
Yeah.
I'm saying?
I mean,
I
we
don't
we
think
could.
I
Well,
think you should
okay.
fix
So if
that.
we look at like density histogram in general, should that fill in everything?
Why is this? I'm totally confuzzled about what's happening here. This is, so that's density histogram, but what about smooth density histogram? Hmm. 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 One went, positioned itself for the seance.
Well, how important is it to know that something is empty?
I think it's important.
Yeah.
But the fact is that the fact that the color map here is so different in those two cases just doesn't seem right.
Well, I mean, the color map is exactly the same, of course, but
Well, but okay, but the color map
but
has
the
an
effect is
identical
different.
0
Yes.
is white and epsilon is dark blue. Just seems wrong. Just seems like epsilon should be close to white.
So often a high
Well,
value
I mean, the other thing
is
I was
bright.
just thinking is, you know, we could make, you know, like 0 a shade of gray or something.
Possibly. I just think you need something consistent here. Minor comment. I just don't, I think I know people often make plots like this, but I think we should rethink those colors a bit in view of the other one.
Mhm.
Right.
All right.
I mean, because
yeah.
to some extent, arguably, the empty squares should be blue. I mean they're
In the
white
second
because they
plot.
aren't having the color function applied to them.
Yeah, well, that's just wrong. If those are zeros in the top one, yeah, it just seems wrong. But I don't think that the effect. I mean, again, I think you need to look at some graphic design stuff and see what. It doesn't seem right. That, in a sense, the most dramatic color is the color that corresponds to 0. Well, anyway, I should go.
Okay. Well,
Okay.
Good stuff. Nice.
okay, thank you.
Thank
Okay.
you.
See ya.
See ya.
Bye.